Hi everyone, this is Jed Schlackman. I'm a holistic counselor and energy healer. Those are roles I play here on this earth, on this particular space-time reality. But really I could ask, is that who I truly am? And that brings us into the discussion that I'll be going into related to kind of reopening, reconnecting our spiritual energy system so that we're really allowing the flow of the divine source energy, the Creator's force, to shine through us more fully. So if we think we are this limited identity, this human body, the personality, the roles we're playing, that in itself somewhat limits this connection that we have to our spiritual energy source. I'll speak somewhat about the chakra system and looking at that sort of as an archetypal reflection of the flow of our energy in relation to these different aspects of our human life experience, and considering how human society or culture or civilization all in some way function to challenge our openness to this flow of energy, to our awareness of our true self and what we can manifest or create. So there are the 7 major energy centers that are often explored and worked on in terms of healing. We have the root center, the sacral center, the solar plexus, the heart center, the throat center, the third eye, and the crown. So let's explore each one of those and how our journey through the human experience often creates some form of constriction, some inhibition of that energy flow. First, of course, the root chakra, the survival center. If we believe fully that we are just this physical body and that we have to struggle to survive, we have to compete with other people and protect ourselves from things in the environment all the time, then we're constantly stuck in that survival mode, and our root center at some point can become rather constricted or congested, since we're not just allowing life to support us, we're kind of struggling to feel that we're safe and that we're alive here. So if we're able to release that struggle, that tension, that anxiety about our survival, paradoxically, the sources for life come through and flow more easily, and we are more vibrant, more vital. Many things about human society kind of reinforce concepts of scarcity, of competition for survival, fear that we're going to lose our home, fear of being attacked, all these different things added on to just the natural reality of physical life, that we're here in this physical body, which does have survival needs. We might need food, we might need shelter, so just those basic things that come with incarnating into a physical form. Society often adds on to that to create even more fear, even more anxiety. So those are some basic issues related to the root center that might constrict or inhibit our energy flow there. Next, we come to the sacral center, the second chakra area, and that reflects our creative force. Of course, it's where our reproductive organs are, where we can actually collaborate with another human being to produce another life form, to conceive a child. But most of the time when energy is channeling or circulating through that area, it's not to create another life. It's to enjoy life, to have passion about whatever pursuits or challenges that we're interacting with in our life. So it's very much connected to abundance, to prosperity and the joy of living, to feeling good about creating and sharing. We all have our energy and our talents and our abilities that we can share, that we can put out into the world around us and contribute to human society in some way. So it's not just by breeding that we're using the creative force, we're applying it in many other ways. Often something happens in our life, it could often be a repeated pattern where that creative impulse is in some way distorted or suppressed. So we might create something, we might be a child drawing or painting or sculpting or singing or dancing, whatever it might be. We're expressing ourselves in some creative way, and we receive some form of criticism or negative feedback that we're not really ready to process in a balanced or very conscious way, and we act by drawing ourselves in, by inhibiting ourselves, by feeling anxious or insecure about being creative, about sharing whatever talent or whatever just inspires us, whatever we enjoy. So we might close off the creative force there. And since that area has much to do with sexuality, our relationship with our sexuality, with our body, that can often play a role in how open or shut down that energy center is. In many societies, there's a lot of mixed messages about sexuality, a lot of very limiting belief systems that are promulgated, a lot of thoughts that you're in some way sinful or shameful, or fears about being assaulted. All of these things are rather common in human society or civilization. So when people carry fear or shame there, that's a form of energy constriction, right? So think of frequency. Love is like open and flowing energy, joy and abundance, things are flowing. But when you're in fear, it's starting to close down. It's a protective mode. So we're constricting ourselves. We're afraid of something negative happening, afraid of how other people might perceive us or judge us. If you look at human civilization, you can see that it's a societal norm to cover up our bodies. So we're not taught from a very young age that it's okay to just be who you are with whatever physical form you're inhabiting. We're taught to be anxious and insecure about that in many ways, whether it's directly or through the role models that we perceive. So if your parents are always self-conscious about how they look, well, hey, you're going to take that on and often be self-conscious about how you look or appear, rather than just being at ease with yourself and being yourself wherever you go, regardless of what other people might be thinking or saying from their limited perspectives. So it's really very much the norm to have some degree of distortion or constriction in energy flow with the second energy center, the sacral area. Then we come up to the third center, the solar plexus chakra. And here we have our personal power, our sense of control over our life and our environment, in particular our self-confidence, how we feel interacting with other people or showing ourselves out in the world. Social anxiety is really very common in much of society. Even people that you see who are out there very much seemingly easily sharing and expressing themselves. They could be celebrities who speak a lot, even though on the surface they might appear rather at ease or confident. Underneath, inside, on that other level of their consciousness, they may also have a lot of insecurity, and they might not be as confident or as charismatic as they appear to you. So we're not really allowed from a young age to feel so confident in just being ourselves without needing to compare ourselves to others. Civilization tends to reinforce the ego aspect of identity, which is always comparing oneself to others. So you're often either feeling inferior to someone or superior to someone. So you may see people out there who you think are wise or intelligent or attractive or talented, and you don't believe that you carry the same capacity or potential within yourself, even though as spiritual beings we are all connected or tapped into the same creative life source. So be aware of that, of how you're feeling in terms of your self-confidence, your ease with just being who you are and being out in the world, allowing other people to see you shine, whether or not they appreciate you, to just be yourself. Next, we're coming up to the heart center, and this is a very deep emotional center. It relates to love and compassion and connection, and when our heart is very open, we're really open to connecting with other people and having compassion for them. It doesn't mean you're going into an intimate relationship with everyone you encounter. It just means you're not condemning and judging them and seeing them as ultimately separate from you. You're actually appreciating or understanding that everyone is in some way a divine being, even though they're here in the human form with their personality, with whatever strengths or weaknesses they may have. You honor and respect the core of their essence, and that helps us feel more love and compassion. But if we're here identifying with our personality, comparing ourselves to everyone, and feeling that people have harmed or abused us, we often shut down our heart to some extent. We're trying to protect our feelings. We want to avoid emotional pain, whether that's pain of abandonment, rejection, isolation, grief, whatever those uncomfortable emotions might be. It's a natural instinct or reaction to try to avoid them and protect yourself from them. Of course, protecting yourself from them naturally involves constricting yourself in ways that inhibit your ability to experience the positive side of the emotional spectrum, the more pleasant feelings. So if you're not able to connect with other people, you're not allowing them to reject or betray or abandon you, but you're also not forming a close connection with them. You're not bonding with them or attaching to them and feeling the energy flow, love, however you might label that occurs in between you. So be aware of how that's playing out in your life, how you may have at different junctures constricted your heart center, obviously seeking to protect yourself to avoid pain, but by avoiding pain we're also avoiding pleasure or joy or connection. The next area we'll be looking at is the throat center. Your throat is your communication area. It's where we can use our voice, we can express our thoughts, our feelings, our needs, our desires, etc. And since we're here in the human form using language to communicate, the throat center is very important in that regard, to connect on that level so that we can build some understanding with one another, so that we can assert our needs. We can use our voice in whatever way empowers us and also empowers other people. We can speak up for others or speak to the needs or the interests of other people. We're not just only focused on ourselves when we're communicating. There's a communal or collective aspect to our communication or vocal expression also. And of course, the voice is not the only way to communicate. We can communicate in writing, with our body language, and of course there's all the modern technology, so the voicemails, the text messages, all these different ways of sharing something that we desire to express. It's actually very common in society and civilization for our communication to be shut down in some way or restricted. We might feel some negative feedback or experience negative feedback when we voice our honest thoughts or feelings. When that happens, we may constrict our future communication. In many cultures, there are things that are taboo to talk about. In our current society, people often speak of political correctness, that if you voice certain ideas or certain thoughts and beliefs, you'll be rejected or ostracized in some way by the dominant social group or institutions. So that could affect people's self-expression. We may also constrict our own speech just out of our own insecurities. We might think or expect that other people will react or judge us in some negative way, even when that's not truly the case. It's not necessarily that society or other people are going to repress your speech. It could just be your own fears, your own anxieties and insecurities. So it's helpful to discern the difference there, to see what's coming from within yourself, your own insecurities, versus what real external reactions and consequences may be out there. There may be situations where it makes a lot of sense to not be completely outspoken. It could cause some significant negative repercussions, and in those situations you might be using your best judgment to constrain yourself and not just say everything that you're thinking and feeling. And that's totally reasonable. It may be the healthy thing to do in some situations, but you may become kind of stuck in that mode. It might become your default, and you continue it throughout your life, even when you move into other circumstances where it's much safer or easier to express yourself. The next energy center is the third eye. That's the area up here in the forehead. It's between your brows, and it's located near where the pineal gland is inside the head. This area has to do with vision, how we understand and perceive things, both our regular physical sense of vision and our clair vision, or our spiritual vision that goes beyond just the physical. Since human society is often not open to things of the spiritual nature, since people aren't able necessarily to see or perceive what you as an individual may be seeing and perceiving from your spiritual or extrasensory sight, you may receive some form of criticism or judgment or rejection when you do attempt to share what you're perceiving. In some cultures or some religions in particular, people who have those abilities, extrasensory talents or gifts per se, are rejected or attacked. It might be seen as something evil, as something that a negative spiritual force is giving someone, rather than a natural ability that's actually connecting people to their own higher power, their own greater spiritual source. So if you've been given those negative responses or reactions to your spiritual sight, then you might feel inclined to inhibit it to protect yourself. Of course, when you do that, you're restricting your own natural capacity, your own natural abilities, and so on. There are also many areas or elements of civilization where there's additional means or manners of constricting the spiritual sight or perception. We live in an environment where there are physical, chemical components that could impair the part of our body that helps with processing or facilitating spiritual sight. So calcifying or blocking up that pineal gland, exposure to a lot of fluoride and other chemicals can do that. So just the nature of our modern chemical-filled civilization can have that negative effect. There are some natural chemical substances that throughout history people have used to try to activate or open their spiritual vision. So what people refer to sometimes as plant medicines or psychedelics. And those substances are often restricted or outlawed in some manner, in our modern culture at least. So there are people that feel somehow threatened or afraid of that. Of course, it's compounds that can be misused or abused, so it's not that there aren't any risks with using those substances, but if you look at the comparative risk to many other things out there people are using that are completely legal but are doing really a lot of harm in society, then you can see that there might be other reasons why some things have been outlawed. So just be aware that you don't have to use those substances to activate your spiritual sight. You can use other forms of energy practices, breath, yoga, meditation, kundalini activation, all these different spiritual opening or expanding practices can help open up your spiritual vision, help remove whatever constriction or inhibition that you've had with your third eye. And now we come up to the seventh chakra, the crown center. The crown is seen as the place in our energy system where we're fully opening and connecting to higher awareness, to the spiritual realms, to your soul, your higher self, to God, the ultimate source, whatever name you might apply for that. And in human civilization, there have been many different belief systems, many different structures imposed that constrict our sense of being connected or unified with the divine. So we have that center that connects us to the spiritual plane, but we ourselves create some interference there. We kind of block our own awareness, our own sense of connection to the higher self. it could be that we feel that that greater awareness is somehow going to judge us. It's going to look at our life and want to punish us or something. So people often have that type of belief system, which leads to a constriction or inhibition of the crown connection. So we want to remind ourselves that we are not separate. We are part of the creation, the Creator's self-exploration, and that greater self does not desire to punish us, to condemn us, to cause us pain or suffering. It's only seeking to have us grow in our awareness, to have us expand our experience, to continue our exploration of life and our creative potential. If we can embrace the totality of that, then we're helping open up our crown center, releasing or letting go of any constrictions that we've self-imposed there. Since that life energy, that spiritual current is always present, the source, the higher self, is always streaming that through. It's there for us to receive and use, to apply for our own life, to create our particular reality here. So it's up to us to allow ourselves to fully receive that potential, to fully activate and express it. So even though civilization imposes many things that could trigger these constrictions, these limitations of our energy flow, in the long term, it's a learning process where we actually further empower ourselves and expand our spiritual energy, our creative capacity. So you have the power to bring your awareness to these areas of your energy and bring about or foster a release of those constrictions, becoming more fully open to the flow of creation, to your soul's potential, to whatever you may have set out to master and express in this particular life experience. So love yourself, be at ease with yourself, embrace yourself, connect to your own higher wisdom. You're not separate from the Creator's infinite intelligence, from a loving presence or awareness. You're not separate from the creative power. All of that is there within you, ready to be expressed more fully. I hope that this discussion has given you some guidance and support, some assistance in your spiritual path. For those that are interested in spirituality and holistic health and wellness, I invite you to visit my website, phinsights.com. That's phinsights.com. For now, I'd love to wish each of you a wonderful day. Namaste.